Plenty of stuff still to talk about. We want your feedback at 216-431-3820. 216-431-3820, or you can Skype in at Dogs on the Run. And, again, we're talking about the Browns situation. Detroit coming up next week. They're 3-2. They're in first place. They've got a 3-game winning streak and a lot of good things going on for the Browns as they move forward. The question is, how will they look in the quarterback situation? What are they going to do? And how will they refill that one spot? Because I clearly think that they're going to bring in a third-string quarterback that we're not going to hear from all season long. Guy that's going to run the scout team.
No, I agree. And you're going to go with who you got. Brandon Weeden's your guy, Campbell's your backup, and then whoever they bring in is your third-string guy, and that's the way they're going to roll.
And, of course, if you want to hit us on Twitter, I'm Andy_Baskin. He's Mike Cairns5 on Twitter. You can also go to our Facebook pages. I'm Andy Baskin, WEWS. What's your Facebook?
Mike Cairns, WEWS.
It's so easy. Mike Cairns, WEWS. We always want to get engaged in social media. Connor Kiesel back in the newsroom. What do you got for us on the social media scene this morning, my friend?
Yeah, guys, we asked that question earlier about Brandon Weeden. Are you comfortable with him at quarterback? We've gotten a few responses on Twitter. Someone told us that Weeden just needs to get rid of the ball, and then someone else told us that if there's no one else out there, that's the guy you have to go with, which is a pretty rational response at this point.
What else do we got? Anything else on Browns Twitter? Anybody want another quarterback? Anybody talking about free agents they'd like to see the Browns bring in? Anybody disappointed with the fact that Freeman's going to Minnesota?
We haven't seen that about Freeman. However, you do have to wonder, were the Browns really ever interested? Was Freeman going to make that much sense for them, considering that the Vikings, I think, paid $3 million for Freeman? And if the Browns are really looking in a different direction come the draft, having all these extra draft picks, did Freeman really make that much sense for them? So people aren't talking about that, but you have to wonder, can Weeden now lead enough with this offense, considering how good the defense has been?
Well, and as the great Al Davis said, just win, baby, and then everything will take care of itself. So Brandon Weeden goes out and he beats the Lions this week, and he's already relieved for a win, and then he comes in and gets a win himself. I don't think we'll be talking much about who they're going to bring in quarterback if he can make it through this week and put up another win on Sunday.
No, people will be very happy, I think. Quickly, they got to like Brian Hoyer, and that took only 2 weeks of winning. I think if Weeden can prove that he can at least do enough to win games. We did have someone tell us that all they need from Brandon Weeden to be is a Trent Dilfer, which maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but with how good the defense has been for the most part, manage the game, don't turn the ball over, which he did not do against the Bills. If you don't turn the ball over, I mean, that's a decent play at quarterback.
All right, Connor, thank you. We're going to check back in with you in a little bit, too. So keep us post and abreast of what's going on social media as well.
Will do.
Thank you. Connor Kiesel checking in from the News Channel 5 newsroom. We have so many options, so many different places we can go. And we've got plenty of interviews coming up still here. We'll check in with Chris Fedor because, especially for you fantasy players that are playing this morning and trying to figure out how the Browns kind of intermix into the fantasy scene and what's next for Jordan Cameron. He'll have some answers for you and how you can play out your team, especially if you're kind of guy that wants to get involved in the Browns as well. So you're trying to, that's the one thing about fantasy that drives me nuts. Because like yesterday, I'm rooting for Dez Bryant to get in the end zone because he's on my team. But I mean, if Dez Bryant was playing against the Browns, I would want Dez Bryant to give me 0 points for my fantasy team because I want the Browns to win.
Right.
And I think that's the dilemma you have when it comes to fantasy football.
Well, I mean, I have Jordan Cameron on one of my teams, too. And you could see the drop in production from Hoyer to Weeden. Now, I'm just going to say that's because it's just a situation that it's going to pick up. Because if you're Norv Turner and running Norv Turner's offense, the tight end's your biggest weapon. It's your biggest weapon in the red zone. It's your biggest weapon down the field. You add that with Josh Gordon. I really believe Brandon Weeden is going to reconnect this week. I'm behind Brandon Weeden. I was glad when he was named the starting quarterback. Does he hold the football a little bit too long? Yes. Does he need to worry about his work on his footwork and take quicker drops? Yes. All those things can be fixed, Andy. It's not like they're bringing in some guy off the scrap heap who they have to start. And nothing against any guys like Thad Lewis who had to start a game for the Browns or anything like that. This guy could become a polished quarterback, but yes, he does have some things to work on. He wins this week. We're not having this conversation. In a couple weeks, he beats the Steelers. We're really not having this conversation. Brandon Weeden's your guy.
216-431-3820 is the number to call in or hit us on Skype, Dogs on the Run. Speaking of fantasy players, one of the best fantasy guys to ever have, Josh Cribbs, is along board with us today. Josh, how's your fantasy? Do you run a fantasy team or not?
No, I'm not. Not at all. I'm too busy trying to get back on the team. I don't have time.
Hey, one of the teams that we talked about that you had some contact with plays tonight. You interested to see how that goes down tonight?
Definitely. I'm going to be on the phone with the agent. Like, man, look, kick return ain't doing nothing. I'm be criticizing that whole team, the offense wise. Like, man, y'all could have used me, man. What's up, man? Why y'all ain't give me the call?
So this will be a busy night for you then, right? You'll settle in with your popcorn and your soda, and boom, you're ready to go.
I'll be flipping the channels back between the game and cartoons because my kids are here. Yeah.
Good call.
Hey, Josh, we were talking about Travis Benjamin before the show and how big of a role the special teams played. What's the biggest difference between returning a punt and returning a kickoff?
Well, when you return a kickoff, you don't have guys potentially in your face right away. Returning a punt, you have to basically catch and go. It's more like, you want that speed guy because sometimes, the Browns scheme, what they have circle up scheme. And the type of player that I am, I'm a straight downhill, hit the seam and go. And that's what I've been taught since day one. As a returner, you want to get vertical. Quickest way between 2 points, straight line, and not necessarily circling them up. But if you have the speed as Travis Benjamin does, and like other returners in the league, like, Hester, his speed to circle up the defense, it's good to do that. But it's a huge difference between, kickoff and punt. Kickoff, they come a little faster because you got more guys coming at a high rate of speed. As far as punt, you being held up at the line and trying to get off at the line, and you might not get down there as fast. So it's a chance for more high collision at kickoff return than punt return.
Josh, what is the mindset difference, and you've done both, between returning kicks and returning punts? What's the difference?
Catching the football. Each time you go out there, you're thinking ball security. I've had muffs. Travis had muffs, and it's tough because the ball is coming. In Cleveland, it's the worst conditions. The wind comes in that stadium and circles around and causes the ball to do so many tricks. So the key is having confidence back there, knowing that you can catch any type of style of football and securing the catch first. One thing I like to say when I go out on the field is ball security. I used to say the whole sentence, ball security equals job security. And I got that from Rosberg, my first year playing. Yeah. He's at Baltimore now, but my first year playing here for the Browns. He said, ball security equals job security. You fumbling and everything, you can't make this football team, you can't play in the league long. So, every time I go out there as far as punt, it's securing the football first, then using your athletic ability second.
I think it's interesting with Travis Benjamin because a lot of people ask me, why isn't Travis returning kicks and punts? And you would think you might be more comfortable returning kicks because you get a little more time to set up and watch what the opposing teams do when they come at you. And the punts are more of a high-traffic situation where, as you said, you've got to catch that ball, and then you have less time to make a decision as to which way you're going to go, and you watch your special teams set up the wall or whatever you have called on that certain one. So why don't you think they have Travis doing both right now?
Well, the same reason that Dennis Northcutt didn't return kickoffs. He's a smaller type guy, and even though you catch it in high traffic, the guys on kickoff coverage come a lot faster than they do on punt, and you have more of them coming a lot faster. And he's a smaller guy. Usually the kickoff, return guys, your bigger guy, your back, the bigger receiver as I did it, your cornerback, guys that are, a little bigger in body and stature. And that's certainly not Travis. He boasts his speed, quickness, and he's a little small because of it. So, punt returns are in high traffic, but all the guys aren't coming down as fast as they do in kickoff coverage. And there's some big guys on kickoff coverage coming down there, and you got to be able to sustain a hit or two. So it's two different, styles of play. I was fortunate enough to be able to, to fit both those styles. But at the same time, on kickoff return, it's just not what they're looking for. He's just not what they're looking for in the style of, in his stature, in the style of play that the team needs right now.
Hey, Josh, I just want to bring up a couple individual players. Joe Thomas has played in 101 consecutive games.
Tremendous.
That is simply amazing for this league where you're lucky if you don't burn out after a year or 2 years. To think that he's started that many games and hasn't missed a snap since he's been here is pretty incredible. You know, offensive linemen don't get a whole lot of accolades, and people don't talk a lot about. If they do their job, no one says anything about them. What does Joe Thomas mean to this team?
He is the solid force over there. You know, when you don't have to worry about a whole side of the field, the line, you know, that's tremendous, and he gets paid very well to do so. And when you start hearing his name, that'll be an issue, you know, in that, you know, negative sense. But I doubt you ever hear that. You know, he's a leader on the football team. Without him, it would be a significant void. You know, you wish you had two of that guy, you know, to go on the other side as well, because it's been in times in the past where, you know, we had problems at right tackle and right guard in places where you try to get a significant guy or a guy that's as solid or at least as close to Joe Thomas as possible. And we've had problems. We had to rotate a lot of tackles throughout the years. But one thing that remained, you know, solid is that left tackle spot with Joe. And Joe Thomas will probably play there until he chooses to retire one day, you know, whenever that is. And that's tremendous for this football team.
The other thing we didn't talk about in the game on Thursday night was Sean Laval being back on the field and O'Neal Cousins stepping back a little bit. I think O'Neal Cousins, a little bit unfairly, was just desecrated across town here for the way. I mean, you asked him to switch positions. You asked him to fill in his spot for the first couple of weeks. And people, between that and Mitchell Schwartz, both those guys took a ton of heat the first 2 weeks of the season. How much of a difference, as you were watching the game, did Sean Laval make for that offensive line?
Well, you know, I've had a chance to play with them both, and Sean Laval, he's more, I say he's more technically sound, you know, fundamentally sound. You know, when you're looking at Cousins is, you know, a scrapper now. You know, we used to watch him on a one-on-one drills between him and D-line, him and Phil Taylor or somebody, you know, our best D-lineman against him because he's a scrapper. You know, he might get a lot of holding penalties, and, you know, but you rarely find a guy versatile enough to move from tackle to guard, guard to tackle, you know, and you got that in him. You know, he may not be that starter that you need, but he's a guy that's, you know, that should be on the football team and that should be doing good things. You know, unfortunately, he keeps, you know, he's plagued with getting penalties. But at the same time, you want a guy that can scrap like that. You want a guy that's physical. And that he's very physical. And he, you know, he shows up in practice. He does his responsibility. And like you said, you know, they asked him to, you know, move spots. And if he wasn't good enough, you know, he wouldn't be on the team to be able to move spots and just switch down the line a little bit. So we are asking a lot of him. And, you know, I ask everybody just to, you know, bear with him. You know, he is having a bad rep and that he wouldn't get if he didn't have those little penalties, which are, you know, you can call it or you can't. You know, it's little hands to the face. You know, between the trenches, a lot of things happen. And I feel like, you know, a ref can call anything between the trenches, and it just happened to be on him. So I think, yes, he gets a bad rep.
There's no doubt he could call holding on every play. Every play a referee could. There's no question. Josh, we'll catch up with you a little bit in the next hour or two. So thanks for being up with us this morning. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right, guys.
All right.